Hello, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are on this beautiful planet of ours. Welcome to Sustainability in Your Ear, the podcast conversation about accelerating the transition to a sustainable carbon neutral society. I'm your host, Mitch Ratcliffe. Thanks for joining the conversation today. The global furniture industry is expected to see $765 billion in sales this year, according to a recent Statista analysis, and $133 billion of that was sold in the United States. Reducing the carbon emissions associated with home furnishing by, for instance, sourcing wood and materials closer to where the product will actually be consumed and shortening supply chains generally to minimize the need for shipping can make more sustainable choices available for consumers. For example, the retail chain Ashley Furniture is the seventh largest ocean shipping carbon footprint among major brands because most of its manufacturing is based in Asia. But one U.S. company, Room and Board, founded in 1980 and that recently became an employee-owned B Corporation, has made significant strides in reducing its carbon footprint and impact by engaging 12,000 U.S. craftspeople to make its furniture. They've achieved 91% sustainable wood sourcing, including using urban wood recovered for reuse in tables, chairs, and other furniture, and by making 89% of its packaging recyclable on its path to 100% targets for both sustainable wood sourcing and recyclable packaging by 2025. We're joined today by Emily McGarvey, who is Room and Board's first Director of Sustainability. She joined the company in 2022 and has led these measurable strides that reflect the company's dedication to being the industry leader in sustainable practices while preparing for future challenges and opportunities. There's a lot to learn from Room and Board's experience, so we're going to dig into that story. You can learn more about the organization at roomandboard.com. Room and Board is all spelled out, no space, no dash, roomandboard.com. We'll be talking with Emily right after this quick commercial break. Welcome to the show, Emily. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Well, pleasure to have you here. And there's a lot to talk about today. But, first, a lot of people don't necessarily know Room and Board. Tell us about the furniture, the styles that you make.
Yeah, so Room and Board is a 100% employee-owned modern furniture and home decor retailer. So more than 90% of our products are made here in the United States using domestic and imported materials. And we were founded and based in Minneapolis, Minnesota. We've got 22 stores across the country and then deliver our furniture nationally. And also, Room and Board is proud to be a certified B Corporation, which really solidifies our longstanding commitments to both sustainability and the community. So our style is really a lot of modern lines with timeless details, and we like to call it trend-proof design because the style and the durability means that you'll have furniture that you love for years to come.
That's an interesting. You're not a company that wants to sell another set of furniture. You want to sell a set of furniture that's going to last.
Yes, absolutely. We hear a lot of stories about people actually handing their furniture down to their kids. And actually, our president was just telling me how the bunk beds that he bought for his children are now his grandchildren are using.
So the company's been focused on sustainability recently, or is that something that was historically part of the mission of the organization?
It's been part of the mission from the beginning. So, Room and Board was founded in 1980, and we like to say that sustainability is part of our DNA. The company has about a dozen guiding principles, and one of them is we share this one world, and whenever possible, we expect each other to make deliberate and responsible steps to protect it. So I think of sustainability as all the good we do at Room and Board. And so we focus our work in three different pillars that helps us prioritize our time and efforts. And so we focus on better products, better for people, and better for the planet.
Now, so how do you take that ethos and design it into a new product line, for instance? Can you talk about the kinds of decisions that you make that might be different from an organization less concerned with being low impact?
And this is where, as the director of sustainability, I am very fortunate that the product team is thinking about this a lot. So, across the whole product design process, sustainability is really included as we think about the product life cycle. So, whether the team is choosing materials like sustainably sourced wood or fabrics that have Green Guard Gold certification, they're really focused on working with US manufacturers that not only shorten the supply chain but also support American craftspeople. In our operations, we're looking to either donate product or resell in our outlets if we have product that come back to us through the returns process. So we're really looking at the whole product life cycle, and that helps us improve our entire impact.
Now, the organization's made a lot of progress in terms of sustainable wood sourcing and recyclable packaging projects. Were those underway when you arrived in 2022?
Yes, there has been a lot of passion and prioritization for sustainability at Room and Board for many years. And so when I started in January of 2022, Room and Board already had a sustainable wood sourcing policy and they already had a focus on packaging. So because of that momentum already started at Room and Board, I was able to help set public facing goals that helped us focus our energy and ensure that we were measuring progress.
So let's talk about the progress you've made. The recyclable materials. First, what kinds of materials did you get rid of in the packaging?
So our packaging is fairly simple. It's honestly a lot of cardboard and plastic.
Mm.
Now, there is a little bit of styrofoam still in our supply chain, which I hate to admit, but it's honestly there probably in lighting. And we're working really hard with our lighting vendors to eliminate that. So we've made good progress there, but we're still working on that. But our packaging is in kind of two distinct work streams. So the first one is 10% of our products are shipped directly to our customers. And so there we're really focused on our packaging being curbside recyclable. But 90% of our products, our furniture is actually delivered to customers' homes, which means we take all the packaging out of customers' homes and bring it back to our delivery centers. And so there we have industrial recycling options available to
Mhm.
us. So within this work stream, Room and Board's really been focused on ensuring that our delivery centers have all the tools in their toolbox, so to say. So we shifted to one national cardboard recycler, which made us much more efficient. And then we also started a relationship with another national partner that helps us recycle our plastic. Because as you may know, clear plastic is usually pretty easy to bale and recycle, but we
Yep.
had all different, like multiple colors of plastic, sometimes multiple layers that were heat sealed
Mhm.
together. And so our plastic partner can take virtually everything. And then Room and Board invested in second balers for many of our delivery centers so that our team is able to bale both the cardboard and the plastic. And then as a result, in 2023, our total operational waste diverted from landfill is at 83%, which is pretty good for the industry.
That's actually pretty impressive these days. You continue to use plastic. Do you intend to eliminate plastic so that those folks who don't have it installed and the material taken away can take care of it?
If we can, so that would be the goal, to not have anything petroleum based. But right now, the it's interesting the where we have plastic is protecting the product in some way, and
Mhm.
so we are constantly looking for new innovations there. But that will be if we can move away from plastic, we will.
Now, the other interesting topic, and that caught my attention, was your use of urban wood. So first, some of our listeners may not know what urban wood is. Explain how you source that reusable wood.
Yeah, so urban wood is wood that's generated from land management. So that means trees taken down because of storm damage, because of disease, or maintaining healthy forests, or even wood taken from deconstructed buildings. So there's roughly 36 million trees coming down every year in our cities across the US, and often those trees are headed to landfill. So the Urban Wood Project was really designed to reclaim those trees and then turn them into beautiful heirloom quality furniture.
Now, do you try to connect that urban wood to nearby craftspeople in order to really shorten the supply chain and keep production nearer to the consumer?
Yes, absolutely. So we were contacted. We got into this because the US Forest Service contacted us about 5, 6 years ago, and they asked
Really?
us if we would be a partner. And so what started in Baltimore has now grown to Detroit, Minneapolis, New York, and then the states of Oregon and California. But we're part of a community that's really trying to create that local circular supply chain.
Mhm.
And it takes the Forest Service, the cities, the tree care and removal companies, the manufacturers preparing the wood, the manufacturers transforming it into furniture, and then ultimately us selling it at room and board. And so trying to keep as much of that local as possible is really important to the project as we're thinking about the trees coming down and then the trees being transformed into something and really upcycled into something beautiful.
Now, why the decision to convert to a B corporation, and how did that sort of consolidate the various threads of sustainable effort that you're talking about, and the idea of better product, people, and environment?
Yeah, great question. So B Corp certification appealed to Room and Board because of three things. It really solidified our mission and values. It offered us the opportunity to share our overall company story to our customers, and it helps us attract and retain really great talent. And we didn't make really significant changes in order to achieve B Corp certification. We've always had a practice of doing the right thing for all of our stakeholders. So, our staff, our customers, our vendors, our communities, and of course, the environment. And so, we were really honored to receive the independent verification and celebration of all those efforts.
So, how do you tell that story? You mentioned a moment ago that this helps you communicate, and I understand the importance of the B corporation, but how do you actually express this to people when somebody walks into a room and board store? Why do they know it's sustainable?
So from a B Corp perspective, that's where I mean my marketing partners do a great job of the storytelling side of things. But to really share, the B Corp certification is a holistic view and deep dive into the company, and really is verified social and environmental impact. And so being able to share that piece of it, I think, is really helpful to our customers so that they understand that the whole company and our supply chain has really been vetted through the B Lab, a nonprofit.
Do you have signage, or are there labels on the products that explain that kind of environmental impact and the reduced impact compared to others?
So we do have B Corp signage in the stores and then on the website. The other thing that we'll share on our website that we just added in April of this year was we have a responsibly made section on
Mhm.
products that have impacts. And so if the wood is sustainably sourced, it'll say it there. If it has a chemical certification of some sort, it'll be listed there. So we want to be able to not only share our overall company story, but then product by product, be able to
Right.
share what might be special or more sustainable about it.
So do you find that consumers say that they chose room and board because of the reduced impact? Is this a selling proposition that's getting traction?
Yes, I do believe so. So I think that with all things, and in my work with sustainability, I mean, people are choosing a product because it's the right color, it's the right size, it's the right style, it's the right price.
Mhm.
But that piece around both made in America as well as more sustainable materials and B Corp status, that's kind of the and one. It's kind of the stamp of approval. It's the thing that makes people feel really good about their purchase. And I
Mhm.
do think it could be the difference between maybe buying from us and maybe one of our competitors. So when we look at our website data, we can see that people that are engaging with our pages that talk about sustainability and B Corp overall, we see a higher conversion rate for sales and we see a higher order value as well. So we know when people are seeing this information, we can attribute it to increased revenue.
That's really interesting. Do you have a sense of how much lift you get from that reputation for sustainability?
We have some metrics. I don't have them off the top of my head, but we are seeing an increase, and it is enough that our leadership team is excited to see the numbers.
Well, this is a really interesting story. We need to take a quick commercial break. We're going to be right back. Now back to our discussion with Emily McGarvey. She's Director of Sustainability for Minneapolis-based furniture maker Room and Board. So Emily, we've talked about the commitments you've made, but how do you actually tie your sustainability goals into the decision-making process at Room and Board? Are executive and employee compensation packages tied to their environmental and social outcomes?
So we do create what we call annual priorities and measures, and we encourage everyone to include social and environmental measurements and outcomes into those. And those priorities and measures do inform compensation. But I'm still so surprised at how often I hear from leaders and from staff the question of what's the right thing to do? Like
Mhm.
what's right for our customers, our team, our vendors, our community, and our environment. And it's our values at Room and Board that really guide decision making. And I think it's because we truly understand and believe that our success is only possible with the mutual success of those around us.
So, as you talk about the things that you want to achieve in the future, what are the additional goals that you're starting to take on now that you've gotten so close to 100% sustainably sourced wood and recyclable packaging?
Yeah, great question. So we have the 2025 goals that we're coming up on, and we do have some of our 2030 goals out there as well. But our sustainability strategy has three pillars: better products, better for people, and better for the planet.
Mhm.
And the work is never done. There's always the next thing. So within products, we're going to be looking at all of our key raw materials and how can they can be more sustainably sourced. And there's a lot of interesting innovation related to more renewable fabrics that have performance qualities, cushioning for sofas that's coming from natural materials, and then bio-based leathers. So that's some
Mhm.
interesting things that are coming our way. And then beyond product, in our people pillar, we're increasing our focus on belonging and inclusion, as well as looking at how we support local communities. And then within our operations, we're working towards our 2030 goals of both zero waste and 100% renewable electricity.
Now, you clearly have thought a lot about how you do this, and have you also established a carbon tracking regimen so that you're measuring scope one, two, and three, and how do you find that's going?
Yeah, so we are tracking our scope one and two and a limited amount of our scope three for greenhouse gas emissions.
Mhm.
And then we have a public facing goal to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions for scope one and two by 50% by 2030. So as of 2023, we've reduced by about 22%. So we're
Mhm.
definitely on our way as it relates to scope one and scope two. And then we know we have more work to do as it relates to scope three.
Do you think that solving scope three is going to be a little easier because you're trying to keep your supply chain mostly based in the United States? This is always the hardest part for every company is that, 85 or 90% of their impact comes from the supply chain. How are you thinking about reshaping the supply chain, and I obviously constantly, in order to get to those goals?
Great question. So when I've looked at some life cycle analysis for the furniture industry, the
Mhm.
biggest places where you're finding embodied carbon and where your greenhouse gas emissions are coming from is your choice of raw materials.
Mhm.
So really focused on how can we have the most renewable natural materials. And so I mean, 80% of the wood we use is solid wood. So, right there, we're already making good choices. And then also recycled content. So how can we increase the amount of recycled content like the Urban Wood Project into our products. So transportation will definitely be a piece of that. Having that shortened supply chain with focus on American suppliers will be helpful. But raw materials is going to be the biggest choice that Room and Board can make. And then we also want to partner with our manufacturers on their own energy waste and water. But to your point, being in the US, they also have opportunities for more renewable electricity, just like we do. They're going to have more options for efficiency and renewability being in the United States.
Do you find that there are more companies, materials providers, who are thinking about reducing their impact and shifting to more environmentally responsible practices? Is this a growing opportunity for you?
I think so. I think it's growing for everyone in the United States. It's growing in Europe. It's even growing in Asia. I think everyone is just thinking about their impact personally and professionally. So I've been in sustainability for the last 12 or 13 years. And from what it looked like in 2012 to what it looks like now, I feel like it's just been a hockey stick of growth.
So how do you find and collaborate with companies around the principles of sustainability and the good human relationship practices that you undertake?
Well, a lot of the vendor partners that Room and Board has, we've been working with for 10, 20, 30, even 40 years.
Mhm.
So we have really long-standing partnerships, and it really is, do they share the same values as Room and Board? And that's how those relationships started, and that's why those relationships have continued. So we have about 150 vendors in, our full matrix, and we are adding new vendors, each year. But really, when we're talking to vendors, it is about their values and how they operate and how they treat their team members and how they're sourcing products. So, yes, they need to have the style and the cost, and those pieces of business. But I would say, our product team is equally looking at, is this a partner I want to have for the next 5, 10, 20 years? And so that long-term focus just automatically includes people and planet when you're thinking long term.
I'm curious, when you assess a new partner, you talked about shared values, but what criteria do you discuss around the table when you're making that decision?
So when I get involved, where I'm sharing the vendor code of conduct with them, I'm sharing our sustainable wood sourcing policy, I'm sharing our animal welfare policy, I'm sharing
Mhm.
our sustainable and material packaging guidelines.
Mhm.
So I'm sharing some of those things and then talking with them about, where they're meeting things, maybe where they have more work to do. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of kind of taking some of our policies and our guidelines and saying, okay, where do you fall within this? And that helps us determine if it's a good fit or not.
It seems to me that it's the last 15% of progress that's the hardest, but we're still well before 85% overall sustainability. When you talk with these potential partners or within your existing supply chain, do you also talk about co-investments that Room and Board and those organizations can make to move the sustainability needle across the entire system? Is this a coordinated effort, or is it a lot of one-off relationships that are providing results, but not necessarily systematic results?
Think it's definitely a partnership. I'd say one example is our Green Guard Gold certification for our upholstery fabrics. So
Mhm.
that's a certification that's looking at like off-gassing VOCs, so basically around indoor air quality. And so we've seen this be growing in importance for our customers. And so basically from the product team having conversations with our partners and because we work directly with our mills that are here in the US, and our
Mhm.
mills agreeing that yes, this is important to the customer and this is important for just the health and safety of people. We went from 20% of our upholstery fabrics having Green Guard Gold certification to over 70%, and that just in the matter of probably 12 to 18 months. And so I think it's that shared vision of what are we trying to accomplish and what's important, and then what's the path to do that, and then how do we do that together.
Yeah, you cannot do that in that time frame unless everybody is sort of moving in the same direction already. That's really good to hear. So, what advice do you have for companies that may be looking at sustainable options and thinking, "Ah, this isn't good for my business, or it's going to be too expensive," or what would you counsel them to think about, and the assumptions that they should embrace in order to make some meaningful movement in their environmental impact?
Well, I would say 3 things. You should know your impact. So
Mhm.
are you a soft drink manufacturer that needs water, or are you a furniture retailer that needs wood? So understand where you have the biggest impact, kind of a know thyself.
Mhm.
Tie it to your company strategy. It's not a thing over here you're trying to force into the strategy. I see a triple bottom line in anything. So, the single bottom line is profit, and the triple bottom line is profit, people, planet. So whatever the company is focused on and prioritizing, create a triple bottom line around that, and then take action. No matter how small, just start. And I truly believe in the financial lever of things. Sustainability has 4 benefits. You're either increasing sales, you're decreasing expenses, and then on a reputation side of things, you're either increasing your brand reputation or you're mitigating risk to your brand reputation. So that's how I think about it from a financial perspective. Because I started my career actually in buying and sourcing. So I kind of started in the financial world and then kind of have moved into more of the social and environmental space.
I'm curious, as a buyer, uh, what were the factors in your purchasing decisions that made you think about embracing the sustainability practices as a career?
So when I was in sourcing, I had the opportunity to travel to China and India. And
Mhm.
so when I was driving along the Hong Kong harbor, I was seeing miles and miles of ships, and each ship had hundreds of shipping containers on it. And I was just blown away by the fact that every product was a tiny piece of the planet made by people, for people, and sold for a profit. And there was this overwhelming, just like, what am I a part of in terms
Mhm.
of all these products and these resources just being shipped across the ocean? And so that was a very pivotal moment for me. And I was really lucky in the fact that I had the opportunity within the same company to shift from a buying role into a sustainability role. And so that was great for me because as I was shifting over, the director of sustainability at the time was explaining a triple bottom line to me and that business could be a force for good. And I was like, yes, this is what I want to be a part of. I want to help business. Like, we need businesses. We need to buy products. We need to buy food. We need to buy furniture for our homes. But how can we do that in a way that's still positive for people and planet? And so we have a ways to go, but I want to be on the journey of helping our products be good for people and planet.
Well, like you said, a company starts from knowing itself and then making those changes. A consumer has a more difficult problem because a lot of this is opaque. What questions, based on your experience as a buyer, would you suggest they should ask in order to make the best decision when purchasing some furniture?
Well, and sustainability is very expansive, it's wide reaching, and it's
Yeah.
also very personal. So it kind of depends on what's important to them. But what
Mhm.
I've seen is people care most about like what goes in, on, and around their body, and also what's closest to them, their family, and then their community, and then their environment. So usually, what I'm hearing people ask about is from a like what materials are in the product, were they sustainably sourced, and then also, are there chemicals that I need to be concerned about? And that's been a big topic of conversation, regardless of product category, for the last 5, 10 years. So I feel like, what are the materials and what are the potential harmful chemicals that might be in my product? And I feel like those are the questions that I hear most, because those are the things that will impact you and your children.
Now, you mentioned earlier that a lot of the product or the textiles that you're using are Green Guard certified. Should, in addition to Green Guard, is natural textiles an appropriate thing to be looking for, or are they not as durable and therefore potentially less environmentally responsible?
So you're exactly right. That's the rub. So right, so there's competing factors here. So if you have a sofa that's made out of linen or cotton or some other type of natural material, you may not have the durability you need if you spill something on it.
Mhm.
And so what then happens is then people will then put some type of stain resistant coating on the material. So now you have chemicals on your material.
Mhm.
So, and then the other side of things is you could have an upholstery fabric made of polyester, which is coming from an oil-based product, but then you don't need to have any stain-resistant coating on top of it because it already has performance ability built in. So it's kind of, well, which path are you going to take? Because one is about materials, but then has chemicals, and the other doesn't have the chemicals, but doesn't have the best materials. So
And the
it's
cotton
the
uses all that water. I mean, there's just
Exactly. Yes. And so that's where I've been really excited to see a lot of the innovative materials happening in apparel and textiles, and then also starting to come into the upholstery and furniture world as well, because we need those innovations because we have to have products that work for us and are durable and have the performance we need, but we also need to respect the earth and and be able to live within the resources that we have. And so that's where I think human innovation is going to come into play, and it already has in many ways, sharing really cool products. It's just having that vision of, how do we solve the problem of not having bad chemicals, but using natural materials? And there's going to be some amazing engineer or designer that's going to come up with a way to do this,
yeah.
probably sometime soon.
So as you look ahead, say 10, 15 years from now, is the furniture industry going to be able to reach a net neutral impact overall, or will we be 50% of the way there?
I think that's a great question. I don't know if I have a crystal ball to truly figure that out.
What's your gut say?
Well, I think that Everyone is looking towards 50% reduction by 2030. And I
Mhm.
know to stay within the Paris Agreement, we're going to have to work harder, faster. And I think as there's more clear and present danger coming from climate change, even just with the weather events and the excessive heat and the excessive flooding, there's going to be an increased sense of urgency for this work to happen. And I think when that happens, we're all going to work faster. So I think we're going to get there because we're going to need to get there.
It's a pragmatic perspective, unfortunately, kind of a blunt and difficult one to really come to terms with. There's a lot to follow. This is a really complicated story. How do people tune in to Room and Board's progress? And
Yeah, so the Room and Board website has great information, including our impact report that comes out annually, which is kind of a nice summary of the year, kind of our yearbook, so to speak. But you can also follow us on LinkedIn and Instagram because many of our sustainability stories are shared via social media throughout the year.
well, hey, Emily, thank you very much for spending time with us today. It's been a really interesting conversation.
Thank you for having me.
You've been listening to my conversation with Emily McGarvey. She's Director of Sustainability at furniture retailer Room and Board. And you can learn more about the company as well as read their sustainability report at roomandboard.com. Room and Board is all spelled out, no space, no dash, roomandboard.com. Know thyself, that phrase, was carved at the entrance of the Temple of Apollo at Delphi, where oracles were dispensed to pilgrims who came from all over the Greek world for guidance. That means that the key to applying the oracle's message to one's life was to see the guidance in a larger light, to integrate a new direction into every aspect of your life. You have to know yourself to do that. And as Emily pointed out several times, we each need to know our position in the world, our impact on the world as a business and as a consumer. But there are no simple answers to becoming sustainable in a complex economy. For example, the trade-off we discussed between natural materials and durability or stain resistance, or the choice between a water-intensive cotton cover for your furniture or a petroleum-based textile like polyester makes a difference. But there are no easy one-off solutions to just becoming sustainable. The message isn't that there isn't a way to win, rather that each of us needs to pick our path based on our informed priorities. And by doing so, we can make a systematic change. Choosing natural fibers may raise the water footprint of a product while reducing the emissions of volatile organic compounds or VOCs and eliminate the need to send that synthetic textile to the landfill when the furniture is recovered in several decades. And in fact, in several decades, that polyester cover may be recyclable, very easily recyclable. We don't know yet. We're in the midst of a transition. So you need to get to know the products you buy, where they come from, how to make them last, and what happens to them after you're done with them. That perspective can help you understand and reduce your overall impact. And if we all do it, even if we do it in our own way, it's been shown already that that can reduce our overall environmental impact as a society. So stay tuned to learn about more choices that you can make in life and business. We promise to deliver at least some good ideas, not to tell you what to do. I hope you also take a moment to share this podcast or any of the more than 490 interviews we produced on sustainability in your ear with your friends, your family, your coworkers. Please, by writing a review on your favorite podcast platform, folks, you help your neighbors find us. You're the amplifiers that can spread more ideas to create less waste. Tell folks that you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, or any of their favorite purveyors of podcast goodness. Thanks, folks, for your support. I'm Mitch Ratcliffe. This is Earth 911, and we will be back with another innovator interview soon. In the meantime, take care of yourself, take care of one another, and let's all take care of this beautiful planet of ours. Have a green day.